Slips Entertainment here, and I'm bringing you another list. Now, this time around, instead of focusing on the top of something, I'm going to focus on the worst of something. So, these are going to be my 5 worst characters in Dragon Quest VIII. Why I'm going to make this list is because some of these characters deserve a little bit of spotlight for how they are, who they are, and what they've done. There's some names on there that deserve to be on there, and then there's some names on there that you're going to scratch your head and be like, what is he thinking? But hopefully you listen to what I have to say and it makes a little more sense. Also, if you would, like, subscribe, comment. If you agree, disagree with my list, I want to know everyone's input. So, without further ado, let's just dive right into my worst 5 Dragon Quest VIII characters. Enjoy. At number 5, we're starting out with High Priest Rollo. Now, I'm going to give my personal take first before I go into, of course, what is known about High Priest Rollo. High Priest Rollo is a pompous, arrogant, greedy, and manipulative individual. He uses his position of power and status to make sure that he stays where he's at and can further advance himself. He has aspirations to be the next Lord High Priest, even though he is a greedy individual. Not the right candidate, for your Pope of the Dragon Quest world. But he uses that status to just always further benefit himself, whether it's in terms of namesake of deeds he's done, or trinkets and treasures to further his wealth, his individual wealth, not the people's wealth like he's supposed to. He also makes a point to remind people that they are in a position of power or a place because he put them there, just like with the conversation with Marcelo, where he's like, "You're here because I said you're here. You are not, this is not your birthright. You have no semblance of, power yourself, so just sit under me." I find that to be a bad tact. But at the same time, he also tries to take credit and benefit from other deeds that other people do, such as when he approaches the hero when Rapthorn or Evil Sir Leopold or whatever you want to call it is attacking the Lord High Priest. He approaches you, says, "Hey, listen, go save a homeboy," but reminds him that I sent you. So again, he uses his kind of position to try to turn every scenario into his favor. Now, what I will say is this: he does get incriminated just like you do. Oh man, karma finally got him. And he sits there and goes on a long winded thing of how Marcelo's an idiot. He took his position of power. There's no way it should have gone this way. But I will say this: he does have one redeeming quality. He saves your entire party. He fakes an illness and sacrifices himself, technically, to make sure that you guys can stop any further misdeeds from happening. So there is kind of a redemption with the man. But again, beyond that part, his greed and just he had pure malice towards everyone else. So again, he's not a very good character. Now, there are some other characters in the game that could be classified in the same category, but they realized sooner that they made mistakes. This guy just halfway through the game, he's just a complete and total pompous dick. Now getting into the meat of this list. Number 4, we hit Marcelo. Now Marcelo has a sad story growing up. Going to go into that a little bit here. He is the child of a wealthy man whose wife could not bear children, so he bangs out the maid to get his heir. And for a few years, little Marcelo is loved and appreciated because he is still technically blood. Well, then little Angelo comes around because the wife all of a sudden has some kind of miracle seed and can bear a child. This changes Marcelo's life. He gets thrown out into the streets with his mom. She dies, and he ends up at the Abbey. Now, that turned out to be a good thing for him as well. Yes, he had malice and hatred towards his dad, but He stuck to his studies, he was a bright individual, and he rose through the ranks of the Templars as he aged. Now, granted, one day he does run into a little boy at the Abbey who has a very similar sad tale as him, but does it takes it in a different way. But once he finds out that that is his half brother Angelo, his mood changes. The tone shift. His dark side is shown. You know, and he becomes more ruthless as Angelo and him are in the Abbey together. Angelo being the exact opposite of who he is, an aloof, fun-loving individual who doesn't take anything too seriously. Now we're going into the real nitty-gritty. Marcello becomes very ruthless as he ages. As he becomes the head of the Templars, he imprisons people, he tortures them just for fun and his sick sense of justice. At that point in time, he also treats his brother like the plague, like that they are not family, that they are not blood. He has no redeeming qualities at this point in time. Now, he does show love and kind of that looks up to the abbot as a parental figure, and then he gets killed by Dolmagus, and I think that kind of shatters him a little more. So, the non redeeming quality is kind of exemplified after that. He becomes the abbot. He's working under High Priest Rollo at that point in time, and not only is he being manipulated at that point in time, but he's also doing the manipulation. Because then, of course, evil Sir Leopold comes in, attacks Lord High Priest, puts a nice, wounding blow on him, but the hero interjects and stops that, right? Marcello comes in, blames the hero, blames Rollo for, killing the Lord High Priest, even though the Lord High Priest is still alive. You find out later on that he does pass away from his injuries, aka, I feel it was Marcello. That's my personal thought. But he lies and manipulates to get his way. He becomes the Lord High Priest, tries to throw down some like martial law shit. You smack him down, end of day. That's all. That's all she wrote. I'm glad that you get to be the finishing touch. Now, the last part that I'm going to point out is that, again, he has no redeeming qualities, and he doesn't redeem himself even when he gets saved by his brother. So at that point in time, yeah, again, he fits on this list at number 4 quite fine, but we're going to move on to the next. And at number 3, we have Dolmagus. Oh boy. This is a good one to really start the back half of the list, in my opinion. So some context of who Dolmagus is for anyone who watches this and is not familiar with him. Hopefully, I can shed some light. He's the magical apprentice of a man named Rylus, and he learns of a scepter that is in Castle Trodaine, in the Kingdom of Trodaine. He then decides, hey, I'm going to guise myself as a jester, break into the castle, steal this scepter. After he achieves this goal, this man then turns the king and the princess into a troll, toad-like thing, and a horse respectively. That's kind of twisted. Now, not only that, when he leaves them, he goes outside, turns the whole castle into a cursed mess of thorny vines, the people into thorn vine statues, everything like that. Now we move on to his just path of chaos, let's call it. So, it started out by him going back and completely fuck smacking his master into oblivion, uh, killing Master Rylus. He then proceeds to the Alexandria Tower, and Jessica's brother Alistar confronts him there. Not only does he confront him there, but he gets smacked by him as well. There's nothing he can do. Dolmagus' power is far beyond any means there. He then moves on to proceed to the Abbey and attack Abbot Francisco. Now, this is where the hero and Dolmagus actually truly have a direct kind of conversation with each other without having a conversation. It's more or less everyone around. But this is where you really start feeling, oh, hey, this guy's going to do whatever he wants. With a whole cast and crew trying to defend Abbot Francisco, Abbot Francisco then sacrifices his life to save King Trodain. And so at that point in time, this is where you really see he plays with his food. You know, he is a piece of crap. And then not only that, he then escapes. You don't see or really hear about Dolmagus too much as you proceed through the game until you have to go to the next continent. Well, of course, it's a rigmarole between that. There's a lot of time that passes, so you really don't find out what he does too much on that end. But then you find out as you get over there that he has killed someone of great importance called Mr. Golding. At that point in time, you're like, all right, man, we got to fuck smack this guy. He has killed 4 sages already, and this is unbeknownst to you that there are only, what, 3 more left that need to be saved unless we unleash Rapthorn. So then you have to chase him through this dark temple, then fight him twice in 2 different phases with no heals in between before you finally beat this hard son of a bitch. Again, this guy has driven me crazy. He was a pain in the ass, but when you finally defeat him, that's when the real fun really starts going on. So moving on to number 2. And at number 2, we have Prince Charmless, or as he would correct everyone, Prince Charmley. Now, Prince Charmless is a less than desirable kid, to say the least. He is an arrogant child who only thinks that since he's royalty, that others have to listen to everything he says and put up with everything he does. I mean, again, that is the true classification of an old royal, right? Pompous, arrogant, greed. Now, when they made this character, you can obviously tell they took all that and they turned it to an 11. Now, there are some pretty quirky side things that make the character a little more lighthearted, and there's some funny context that you can take from it, like his fear of lizards, and when you have him run around like after you drop it on his head like a screaming little girl. It's a pretty funny moment, but then he has to go hunt bigger ones, and your group gets thrown into this. At that point in time, they could have skipped that whole section of the game. I would have been okay with it, but because this little bastard annoys you, berates you, it's just he thinks he's a know-it-all. Of course, he is royalty, and you are just some peon, or so he thinks. And well, your whole group is helping him. Again, he's just berating and antagonizing you all. He even hops on the horse princess for a hot minute and rides her like a bucking bronco. Some would call that bestiality, but I guess others call that trying to tame a horse. He even makes the note that the horse should feel grateful that it tasted his crop, right? Well, beyond all the arrogance, you help him get all this. You, as the hero, help him, right? You go back to the kingdom, the festival's going on, he runs off, and then by the time you meet him again, he has now said, hey, screw what you did for me. I found this for sale. It's bigger than the one we got. And, while he's doing that, his dad's watching him, just kind of scowling like, oh man, woe is me. Well, then when his dad asked if he got the Argon heart, legally by illicit, by either illicit means or if he actually got it, he says, "Oh no, I earned this, Daddy. I earned this." His dad knows the truth. Basically says, "Okay, son." And again, it goes back to the upbringing of the dad's kind of promoted this. The kid can grow out of it, but the dad promoted it to a point where, no matter how many lies the kid tells, no matter how pompous or arrogant, his dad's in his corner. So that's upbringing. However, then we fast forward. It's his, coming to his wedding day. He's about to marry the horse princess because you just saved the whole fucking world from everything. And he's trying to kick you out. He's trying to say you don't belong there. He does not, there's no graciousness for any act that you did for this little bastard. But then the hero, kicks in the door, basically says, "Hey, that's my boo." Takes the horse princess, and as he runs out, his dad finally grew a pair, confronted him, and you would think that would be the end of it. That would be the true karma, and that this kid would learn. That's doubtful. And between this and number one, it was a hard choice because I really wanted to put this kid there first, but I'm going with a little more of a, real list here. So number one will actually be the true big bad of it all. Again, it was a toss up between these two, but let's get down to the real nitty gritty and go to number one. And that brings us Rapthorn. Now, Rapthorn is the true big bad throughout the entirety of the game. At the first half of it hidden behind the scenes, unbeknownst to everyone, and a scepter. So that's why I separated Dolmagus and him, because Dolmagus knew his actions would do this, and it's not his fault that the scepter started warping his mind even more and making him even sicker than he already was. So that's why I kind of kept them separate. But starting out with where Rapthorn really starts making his presence, we're going to talk about Evil Jessica. Now, Evil Jessica is that kind of variation of Rapthorn wasn't that bad. Very limited screen time, took away a party member. That was supposed to make everything harder, but she was a pretty easy and containable fight. And then the next part is where the real evil comes into play. Because you have evil Sir Leopold, or Sir Leopold find the staff, become evil Sir Leopold, and then show up right after everything that just happened, and then kills one of the Sage descendants in David. And so, that's the start of his little bloody path that's going on here. Now you hear about, destruction and chaos as he's flying around, all that fun stuff, but then you don't confront him again until you reach the Sage Marta. Now, Marta, badass as she is no match for evil Sir Leopold, even though, in my opinion, she gave him a run for his money. But then, after all that, you witness everything happen here as well. You move on, and it takes a hot second to find him again, and then you end up confronting him after he attacks the Lord High Priest. The fight's not that bad, and Evil Sir Leopold's kind of a cakewalk, but this is where the real, true evil starts going on. Now, Rapthorn, after all this, possesses one more person before he shows his true form, and that is Marcello. And Marcello, again, was on this list as well. He's a separate entity because of his own deeds, but Rapthorn made him a bigger pain in the ass than he had to be. And after you beat that, Marcello does the one, undesirable act and brings out that dark castle in the sky, right? That's Rapthorn's lair. So then you fight phase one of Rapthorn. And it's not a hard fight. He's a cute little bastard, in my opinion, right? He's not so evil looking. He's a cute little fella. He's an evil bitch. He's a fucking evil bitch. So after everything is said and done, and Rapthorn's fully released, you fight him phase one. He's pretty easy. Then you gotta fight him phase two. That's not so easy, because you have to go around collecting a whole bunch of stuff. While you're doing that, you can only imagine he's trying to break apart the world, because this guy is trying to control both the light and the dark worlds. He wants to be ruler of all. So, not only that, it is and I go into this on my top 5 boss fights as well, because he is not just the worst character, but he's also the grindiest boss in the entire game next to the in-game content. This guy beats you in senselessly. You have to have a marathon battle with this guy, and that's also why he makes this list as number 1, because he is the biggest pain in my ass. But other than that, he is a evil dude. He wants to destroy the world, not just the light world, but the dark world as well. And he's just a bad mamma jamma. And he did a whole lot of evil deeds until the hero defeats him and fulfills his destiny. And this concludes Slips. Entertainment's worst 5 characters in Dragon Quest VIII. If you agree or disagree with any of my selections here, leave a comment down below. Let me know your top 5 list. I'd like to hear what some people think. And again, if you would like, subscribe, and always leave a comment, I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. See you.